I'm Andrew, and welcome back to Custom Cards, where we teach you to make your own Magic the Gathering cards. Today we're continuing our series on common design, focusing on red common slots. Red is the color of chaos and emotion, fire and zeal. It tends to think short-term, willing to trade longevity for immediate power. Like last time, we'll be analyzing patterns from the last 21 official standard large Magic sets. Like all colors, red gets creatures with no abilities, and they usually have higher power than toughness. Its creatures get haste or grant haste to other creatures. Creatures with trample usually have some method of gaining power, so they can use their trample effectively. Menace is red's primary form of evasion, though it also gets creatures that are hard to block in other ways. First strike can be restricted to your turn only, or another condition to make it more balanced. Double strike happens only occasionally, and goes on overcosted creatures because it's a very strong mechanic. Now, red isn't really supposed to get flyers, but because of dragons and phoenixes, it does, and occasionally those flyers seep into common. However, WotC has recently added reach as an option, so that's becoming the default. Red's defenders generally have power to damage creatures in combat or tap to damage a player. The second group can untap under certain circumstances. Like white, red uses spells that make more than one creature, and like black, it uses undercosted creatures with downsides that relate to attacking and blocking. Red's main feature is burn. In any given set, there are usually around 4 commons dedicated to dealing damage to players, planeswalkers, creatures of various sizes, and sometimes to every creature. Red can also deal with creatures via Panic, which prevents one or more creatures from blocking for the turn, Treason effects, which remove a blocker and give you an attacker, fight spells, which make 2 creatures deal damage to each other, and Defender Destruction. In addition, red can destroy artifacts with Shatter effects, and Stone Rain effects destroy lands. Because land destruction is intentionally underpowered, these spells generally have other effects tacked on to add usefulness. Red's buffs tend to give a lot of power, and often first strike or haste. Like all colors, it gets positive auras, sorcery speed pump spells, combat tricks, and +1/+1 counters. Red creatures often buff their own stats based on a condition, such as attacking or casting a spell, and fire-breathing creatures use your mana for power. Red doesn't get much in the way of card advantage, but it can rummage, which lets you discard a card to draw a new one, and like all colors, it gets cantrips and scry. In the miscellaneous category, red produces temporary bursts of mana, sacrifices creatures for short-term gain, and exiles creatures that it kills. It also uses Pokemon, which are cards you want to collect as many of as possible, and it can utilize abilities from different colors if the card is gold or has an activated ability. Red is often criticized for having the smallest piece of color pie. Because it has a monopoly on many types of burn, it often relies too much on those effects. To address this, WotC gave red Impulse Draw, which allows it to play cards from the top of its deck for a limited time. Unfortunately, this effect hasn't made it to common yet, but it's worth exploring that or other possible effects that would feel at home on common red cards. That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and tell us in the comments about your favorite red common. We'll be back next Thursday to design some red commons of our own.